Dear organizers, we would like to thank you for the opportunity to participate in this conference. Today, we are going to be talking about challenges of machine translation application to teaching ESP to construction students. The study deals with developing of CAD competence among ESP students via comparative analysis of machine and human translation with subsequent post-editing. The article aims to conduct a comparative analysis of machine and human translation of construction terminology from Ukrainian into English, identify causes of machine translation errors, provide recommendations for improving the quality of students' translation via post-editing, as well as developing their interdisciplinary skills using CAD tools. The research aim entails solving the following tasks: to classify common errors in machine translation, to compare the number of errors made after translating titles of students' master qualification papers by means of Google Translate and prompt, to perform human translation using specialized dictionaries and compare it with the machine one, to study the problem of construction terms harmonization, to perform a quantitative analysis of errors in the machine and human translation, to develop recommendations for translating construction texts by using the machine or computer-aided translation, to identify a relationship between specific machine translation problems and students' post-editing efforts. Master's degree students in construction specialties of the Engineering Institute of Science and Education, Zaporizhzhia National University, are engaged in the pedagogical experiment. 20 students have translated 50 titles of master qualification papers by using Google Translate and prompt, followed up by manual translation with dictionaries. Then, terminological and linguistic errors in the machine and human translation are compared. Analysis of data obtained enables developing recommendations for teaching ESP to construction students in order to develop their CAD and general digital competencies, as well as interdisciplinary skills. Machine translation errors are divided into terminological, related to Eurocodes, and linguistic, related to multi-component terms and synonymy. Eurocodes are European standards for designing structures of buildings developed by the European Committee for Standardization on the basis of the agreement with the European Community Commission. Yet, not only students, but also many ESP teachers are not familiar with the Eurocodes dictionary designated to be guided by when translating construction terms. The quantitative analysis reveals that linguistic errors make up about 41%, while those in terminology, 59%. Terminological errors prevail due to the following: high concentration of terms within a small context, complexity of translating construction terminology due to Eurocodes. There are fewer linguistic errors because there are no verb phrases in the titles under study. We can give the example of comparative analysis of some terminological errors in the machine and human translation based on the given example of the translation of one paper title. In this example, we can see the complexity of translating the terms konstruktivni and konstrukcije. Both translation programs provide different translations, yet the Eurocode dictionary gives unified variants, structural and elements. Linguistic errors are usually associated with translation of multi-component terms. English multi-component terms with a typical left-orient deployment are characterized by dependent components in the left position regarding the main component. On the contrary, Ukrainian multi-component terms are noted for right-orient deployment. This fact should be taken into account when translating multi-component terms. We can give the comparative analysis of some linguistic errors in the machine and human translation on the given example. An example of machine translation doesn't harmonize with the translation scheme of multi-component terms. So the preposition of makes them clumsy. Knowing the structural scheme of English multi-component terms, the students easily replace the of phrase by a multi-component term, where HW is the head word, LPA 1, 2 are one or more left position attributes that clarify the meaning of the whole term. When translating 3 or more component terms in the genitive case, the rule should be observed when the main component in Ukrainian terminology should occupy the final position in the English equivalent. The other type of linguistic errors is associated with synonyms. In this example, we can see the synonyms research and investigation. The word research is more relevant in that context. In machine translation, term-related errors make 59%, the linguistic errors 41%. The number of errors made by Google Translate and prompt programs is nearly equal. When translating manually, these figures are lower, 45% and 30% respectively. Thus, the number of terminological errors decreases by 14%, while language errors by 11%. The data obtained prove the advantage of human translation over machine one and substantiate the need for post-editing of machine translation. When comparing the quality of translation by Google Translate and prompt programs, it appears to be equally low. Since the titles of master qualification works should provide maximum information and reflect the essence of research, they are noted for long structures and multi-component terms. It can be seen from the analysis, almost all 50 titles translated by machine translators contain terminological and linguistic errors. When translating, both programs ignore the requirements of the Eurocodes, which is quite natural for them. They also don't take into account the rules for translating multi-component terms and offer options with numerous repetitions of the preposition of, which is unacceptable for English grammar. In addition, prompt and Google Translate programs may provide synonyms for one and the same word. The results of the study enabled developing of students' CAT and general digital competencies. We have proved that CAT translation competence includes all the components of language acquisition, along with some specific sub-competencies: content knowledge competence, research competence, and monitoring competence. Besides, the results help enhance students' interdisciplinary skills of combined knowledge, analyzing, and thinking critically. While conducting the comparative analysis, the students apply unconsciously the top levels of Bloom's taxonomy to achieve effective learning outcomes: analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Post-editing translation learning, the results of which are presented in the paper, generates motivation, knowledge, and creativity. Recommendations for teaching ESP to construction students. Translators follow strengths in order to prevent possible errors when using machine translation, providing examples of possible translation options for multi-component terms, taking into account the ways of avoiding excessive off-phrase. Introducing all kinds of specialized translation dictionaries of construction terminology, both printed and online ones, to students. Selecting appropriate samples of inconsistencies of terms in translation dictionaries and the equivalents in the Eurocodes dictionary. Reminding students about mandatory post-editing of machine translation. introducing a special course, application of CAD tools and machine translation to translation technical texts at non-linguistic universities of Ukraine. Making students acquainted with such linguistic phenomena as homonymy and synonymy of terms. Thank you for your attention.